Welcome to i30N Owner, the YouTube channel where I answer your i30N ownership questions. I share my experience with my car and talk more generally about Hyundai's growing lineup of N-brand performance cars. In today's short video, I want to explain why I purchased an i30N Fastback. So I have a post-facelift, it's a 2021 i30N Fastback. It's got the DCT transmission, it's white color. I bought it not as a brand new car, it was like an ex-demonstrator, and I want to explain why I bought the Fastback over the regular hatchback. Because long story short, the hatchback i30N is actually the better buy for the vast majority of purchases for a couple of reasons. One is if you're buying new, it's less expensive to purchase, and generally speaking, it's less expensive to purchase second-hand as well. And also the hatchback shape is actually more practical. The boot load area and the kind of shape and layout of it is better, and also the rear headroom and overall feel in the back seat is nicer in the hatchback. Neither the hatchback nor the fastback, because they're effectively the same car underneath, neither of them have a particularly luxurious feel in the back, but it's more than adequate in terms of legroom. The issue with the fastback is the sloping roofline. For someone who is taller, if you put a taller passenger in the back, you can basically see them just about bumping their head on the roof. If you've got children in the back, for example, children like to generally see a lot of outside world visibility. They like bigger windows. It can feel a bit claustrophobic for them. Same with anyone who is a bit prone to claustrophobia. And the fastback, yeah, you sacrifice in terms of practicality. And that, to me, has always been the kind of downside with the fastback. You pay more, you objectively have to pay more if you're buying the car new, and usually if you're buying secondhand, and then you objectively lose in terms of practicality, and practicality is such a key element of what makes hot hatchbacks great cars. And then all you gain ultimately is a subjective benefit, and that subjective benefit is the styling, which is not to everybody's tastes. Most people I've talked to, most i30N owners I've spoken to, talking to the dealer when I bought mine and so on, most people massively prefer the hatchback shape. The fastback is a bit of an acquired taste. And so what I want to do is kind of give my logic and reasoning on why I bought one of these. So there's two real reasons why I did it. Firstly, I'll talk about the sort of financial aspect of it. So I didn't buy my i30N brand new. I bought an ex-demonstrator. And basically as a slightly unusual ex-demonstrator in the sense that it was actually the sort of dealership manager's car that he had been driving around in, that was supplied by Hyundai in effect. And then he turned that back in and they turned it into a kind of ex-demonstrator slash second-hand vehicle, and it sat around for quite a while. The problem, I guess, with the i30N ultimately being, particularly with the post-facelift DCT and in the fastback shape, they're just really expensive cars. You know, the price shot up massively here in New Zealand between the original first gen and then the post-facelift launch, particularly once you started adding on options like the fastback and the DCT and the sunroof and all those kind of things. The price really got up there, and it was just overpriced sitting on the Hyundai dealer's lot for quite a long time. And of course, the longer a car sits, the less desirable it becomes. Now, I've had my eye on an i30N since they first launched, but for various reasons, financial reasons, personal reasons, I just didn't get around to getting one. And I'd always kept my eye on this particular example, the car I bought, and sort of watched the price drop over a period of a number of months actually, until it got to the point where I was like, yeah, that's in a price bracket where I'd be pretty happy to buy it if the car stacked up and I could get some extras thrown in with the purchase. And so a part of my purchasing decision with the i30N Fastback was that ultimately I got a car I really like. I still like the fastback shape, and I'll come to that in a minute. I got it at a massive discount compared to what I would have had to pay for the same car new. And the dealer came to the party with all sorts of things like throwing in a bunch of servicing, preemptive servicing, doing things like throwing in an extended warranty once the factory warranty expires, all that kind of stuff. So I got as close to a new car as I could have done for really quite a very substantial discount off what I would have had to pay to buy that car new. And there's limited stock of these cars in New Zealand. You don't have an unlimited choice of what you want to get. So the financial aspect stacked up for me. Obviously, if you're buying new, it's different, because if you're buying new, the fastback's going to cost you more. Whereas yeah, the i30N hatchbacks here seem to sell quicker, so the fastback just sat unloved until I came along and purchased it. Now, the second aspect to why I bought the fastback outside of the money side is I really like the design. And I appreciate that that's maybe a more controversial opinion. A lot of people don't like it so much. I'm a big fan of the fastback design. I love the hatchback design. I think the hatchback is the sportier looking car, the more aggressive looking car, the more performance focused car. If I was only buying from the perspective of what it looks like the most fun, I would get the hatchback in the performance blue, because I think that's the best color for them. But my utilization of my i30N, the vast majority of the mileage I do in it is for business purposes. The line of work that I'm in, doing consulting work, you don't need to show up in a Rolls Royce or a BMW or a AMG Mercedes or something like that, but you need to show up in a respectable car. Now, I know that a lot of people might disagree with that kind of thinking, but having been in business for long enough to know this for a fact, perception, how your customers see you, it is quite an important thing. It doesn't mean you have to go out and buy a high-end luxury European car, but you've got to have something decent, and I think the i30N fits the bill there. And I think, and my personal view and why I bought the Fastback, is that the Fastback design is more mature and sophisticated looking. So if you want to have fun, if you want the more kind of hooligan aspect, which is really what these cars are about to some extent, get the hatchback, and you get a more practical car, and it won't cost you as much money. But with the Fastback, I just really have always liked the design of it. I know that it compromises somewhat in terms of practicality. I know that it's a bit more of a kind of contentious purchase, but I really do like the way it looks from the front, from the side, from the rear aspect. It looks very, very smart, particularly in the white color that mine's in. The great thing about it is you can pull up to a client's office or pick someone up from the airport. If they don't know anything about cars, they look at it and go, that's a sensible Hyundai, particularly if you just got it in normal mode or eco mode. Hyundai's a respectable brand. It's a nice modern looking thing. Nobody really looks twice. But then equally, if somebody knows about cars, they can look at the car, they can look at the N badging, they look at the name on the back, the i30N, the badge for it, and they can immediately tell, if they know anything about cars that is, that this is something a little bit special. If you're around car enthusiasts, you can click the drive mode across or put the N mode on and crank up the exhaust and kind of show it off a little bit. And so that just gives you a bit of a perspective on why I did what is ultimately a relatively unpopular thing, it seems, and purchased an i30N Fastback over the hatchback. I do really like the original hatchback design, as I said, but the Fastback, for what I was looking to do with the car, was the better purchasing decision. Keen to hear your feedback on the Fastback versus the hatchback, what you prefer. You can like this video if you found it interesting, subscribe for more i30N content, and check out my website at i30nowner.com as well.